Welcome back, everybody. Got a special guest for us today. You might know her. She's the Pulse Chain Positivity Princess, a wild SJ, leader of the Pulse Chain Tour, one of them, and just a Pulse Chain HEX aficionado. HEX is pumping today, finally. So a little positivity, a little excitement in the air. And I figured who better to talk to than a wild SJ. Why don't you tell the people that might not know you who you are?
Well, hello, people that may or may not know me. I am a wild SJ. I have been a proud, positive member of this community for the last 3 years. Sure. Well, almost 4 years, maybe? Man, time flies. Yeah. And I snuck my way into this little tribe of Hexicans via Richard Hart's svive, really, is kind of how it all happened. I studied HEX for a little while, jumped on board, was really happy with what I heard in terms of the way that HEX works, and thought that of all the things that I've heard about in crypto, it seemed the most solid in terms of if I'm going to gamble, if I'm going to like take a risk and put some money into something, this seemed like the thing to do. Then I really wanted to know about Richard. I thought, all right, I feel solid in this investment. That's great. But like, who's this Richard dude? And why is he twerking and opening up, unboxing Louis Vuitton teddy bears and things like that? So I took a deep dive and found out that he wrote a couple books. And being an avid audiobook listener myself, I thought, oh, there's got to be an audiobook for this, right? The only one that did exist, and shout out to Ann HEX for doing it, it was a speech-to-text version. So just, it worked, but it was really monotonous. There's no really emotion or anything. It was just very robotic. And I thought, even in just reading the first page of that book, I knew it needed that human element. And I really wanted to just go ahead, and I was going to read it anyways. So I figured I'll just record myself reading it. Maybe someone else will appreciate it. Turns out a whole lot of you did. So I'm glad that I took on that endeavor. And since then have been really just immersed myself in the community and became kind of like right-hand RG3. I produce his shows. I've been on the tour the last couple of years with him and KC, or Black Hexican, or artist formerly known as. She goes by Crypto Culture now. And it's just been a whole whirlwind of emotions and adventures and all sorts of things. But I've never been happier. I'm glad to be here. And it's really exciting as someone who's never seen a bull run to know that there are green candles and that's real.
It's funny how we're at the bottom of a 99% drop, but just one little 25% day can really put the morale back in people. Woo! I mean, it did for me at least. It's like, yeah, we're so back. We've all said that a million times before, but people don't realize how easy crypto is to pump. I mean, it's a low liquidity ecosystem, especially not just Bitcoin and Ethereum, but Pulse Chain, this brand new ecosystem. Doesn't take that many millions of dollars to pump, as we saw. I think like $1 million came on chain 2 days ago, and might have been part of the reason that HEX was bought up or something like that. I don't have any on-chain proof of that, but it just goes to show you how pumpable this is with a couple of whales and a couple of retail like us just cheering and marketing on the whole way up and down. Right? We can amplify the pumps based on our voices. And yeah, a lot of people, when they get into crypto, they take one quick look at Richard Hart, the founder of HEX and Pulse Chain. And like you said, they see him twerking in a Gucci suit and they write him off right away. He's very easy to write off. When you look under the hood, you've got some serious world-changing innovation. You've got brand new coins with 100x or more potential. And people don't realize that Richard Hart, again, the founder of Pulse Chain and HEX and PulseX and INC, he used to make self-help content. He had a self-help book. And so, what you've done with the audiobook narration is pretty great. I appreciate that. And we all do. And he was making self-help YouTube videos before crypto, right? So people write this guy off as a scammer, but they don't realize that even though he might come off as abrasive and kind of giving you the harsh truths that you might not want to hear, and can he be kind of a dick? Sure. But you'll realize that he's right about almost everything, especially in crypto. So he's been like a mentor to all of us, teaching us about things, how liquidity works, how to hold your own private keys, how to watch out for scams and don't fall for centralized fake crypto. He actually did save people from Celsius and FTX by warning people not to get into those things. And so, the markets are all down. We had a lot of weak hands, and the whole HEX ecosystem is down, anywhere from 80, let's see, Pulse is down, what is it, 70% from SAC rate. PulseX is down 80%, and HEX is just down real bad. But, the farther we go down, the harder we can snap back up. I really believe that. And it's funny how people's sentiment changes on just a couple of green days, because you realize, well, maybe it's finally time. I don't want to jinx it, but at some point, the last seller will have sold. At some point, someone will make the bottom. And is the bottom in? Some people are calling for it. I can never say anything with certainty, but the sellers have to be exhausted at this point.
Yeah, I sure hope so.
Right. We've at the end of the day, the fundamental thesis doesn't change. That I say this all the time. They're going to keep devaluing the dollar. That money is going to have to flow somewhere. It goes into crypto assets, and it goes into crypto assets that can command the most attention. It's an attention economy. And people like you and hundreds and maybe thousands more people on Twitter, even if you're just out there making a little tweet every day, everyone's kind of doing their part to amplify the attention of this ecosystem. That's why big influencers like Ivan on Tech, Lil Pump, Tekashi 6ix9ine, even these cringe rappers and stuff, like they know that when they mess with the HEX community, they get more engagement. It's undeniable that, this is where people's eyeballs are looking, whether or not they're sidelined and they're waiting to see what happens, or they're taking the courageous leap of faith and they're buying this dip, this huge dip. If they're dollar cost averaging in and then you're a believer, right? There's a lot of us out there, and I think a lot more that are just waiting for confirmation. So I prefer to be early. So here we are. I never left. What's going on with you? What are you working on in the Pulse Chain universe?
Yeah, well, one thing I'll touch on before I get into really like the meat of what I'm doing, which is the tour, is that I am still actively working on svive. If you didn't know, aside from doing the audiobook, I actually did copy and content edit the text. So currently, the only text version that you can see is a PDF version, and you can find that in t.me/svive, SCIVIVE, and it's pinned. That's where the original audiobook came from. And then after I did the original, I thought, man, this thing's a mess. I did journalism in high school and college, and I just kind of enjoy editing. So I thought, why don't I just take this and make it clean it up a little bit, because you could still see notes from the previous editor. There were chunks that belonged in other sections. There were sentences or ideas that weren't quite finished. So I went in, cleaned all that up. I also had, with Richard's permission, decided that we should clean it in terms of the language. So there's no more cussing. It's all been kind of, switched a little bit to make it be a little bit more family friendly, I guess, so that everyone can read it, right? That it wouldn't be restricted by a certain audience or age. So that was all done. And then shout out RH Max, who's put a lot of time and energy into this as well. He hired a professional editor who went through someone, right, like not associated to the community at all, right? So they're looking at it, they're coming in with a fresh view and a clear mind. And they went through, suggested a bunch of edits, and now the final-ish step that I'm going through is I'm going through all of those suggestions, approving them or denying them, and then kind of doing a final pass through of the text and finalizing it to send that to a publisher. Now, from what I understand, even once it goes to a publisher, it's probably going to become further edited and then hopefully published. Because I know that at the end of the day, that's Richard's goal, right? Is he's wanted to see this thing actually be a published physical book for a very long time. So he
put the self-help movement on hold when crypto came in, but he's getting back to writing a book is a huge task. So people don't realize that it goes multiple edits. And I remember when it was just like bare bones, random thoughts. And I was like, wow, what am I even reading here? So it takes tons of hours of work, and it's not an easy task to get a full book together. So what do you think people can gain from it? Like for the people watching, what might they not know that what's the best advice that Richard's given in his book?
There's so much in there is the thing is that's why I think everyone should read it, because it's so broad a spectrum of advice, anything from how to not make your poop make noise in the toilet to how to be a successful business person, right? There's everything from hygiene to reframing your mindset. In fact, I just had a conversation last night with my sister because she and her girlfriend were talking about how they just recently decided to start, if they say something, if they're going to say something like self-deprecating, they've started to like change the wording a little bit. So like instead of, oh man, I really messed that up, it was something like, oh, I'm hot and I really messed that up, right? Just twerking it a little bit so that
How you talk to yourself is important. It's like, instead of sorry I'm late, thank you for waiting.
Yeah, perfect example, right? So that to me is, I think, one of the greatest takeaways from that book is that, I'm going to misquote it a little bit, but the line is something to the effect of, focus on the negative only as long as it takes you to turn it into something positive. So that sorry was a perfect example. Instead of sorry for being late, thank you, right? From the negative to the positive. And then take it a step further. And this is what I think Richard really drives home in svive, is that it's not just about mental is good, right? And it's important to switch your mindset so that you are doing something positive instead of negative. Also, you need to make sure that you are doing something, right? Because you're mentally, yes, that's good, but then take whatever step it is to attain a goal, to move forward, to decrease the bad habit and increase the good habit. Because thoughts or words without action really don't mean much. There has to be a follow-up and some movement in order for it to kind of stick. So that, I think, is one of the greatest takeaways from svive. And again, there's so much in there that I feel like anyone can read it and really glean something. It changed my life in multiple ways. One way in like business sense, in terms of my naming here. I used to call myself siviving SJ. And when I was reading svive, there were two things that stuck out to me. Was Richard said something about making sure that it's kind of like your own brand or your own name, right? So for me, yes, I love svive. Obviously, like I am the svive queen, but it's not my book. I didn't write it. Those aren't my words. So I can promote it as much as I want, but it's not something that really came from me. So I just decided to switch it up. And then there was another thing he said in there, and I can't remember if this is in svive or his other book, which is 15 Ways to Fix the World. And he talks about, if you're going to name something a business or, whatever you're doing, if you use a number, like 1 through, 0, 1 through 9, all those, numbers, or a letter that begins at the beginning of the alphabet, it's more likely that you're going to show up in searches. You'll be listed at the top of the page and things like that. And somehow through all of that, I ended up with a wild SJ, and it works. In fact, I think it's the Pulse Tube. There's a couple websites where they list a lot of the people that are doing content creations, and I'm right there at the top. And it's really cool to see that, the way that works. So from business sense to just life advice.
There's a lot of those people out nowadays. I think in like today's day and age, a lot of people come from, kind of broken families or don't have a good role model in their life. And that's why people like, Richard or even Jordan Peterson and Alex Hormozy and all these, like, I'm only speaking for the men, right? I'm sure there's a lot of female business gurus and life advice kind of people, but the rise of podcasters and people that have done successful things and then, go on to teach that to the rest of the world, it's filling a big void in modern culture.
Yeah.
And so people don't realize, you've got this guy, everyone calls him a scammer, but I don't think he cares more. I think he cares more about his project and literally pumping his project than anybody even realizes. You know, his hands are tied. We're kind of all speaking for him right now, us and the hundreds of other YouTubers, because legally he's not really able to say a lot right now. But I think he's going to come back for the glory in the end, and it's going to end up being amazing. Basically, I believe that this whole ecosystem is the biggest asymmetric bet. I mean, even if it was like a 50-50 chance of this whole pulse chain ecosystem working out, which I believe it's much higher than 50-50. But if it's like 50%, it all goes to shit, it all goes to zero, 50% it goes to the moon, you need to take that's what an asymmetric bet means. It means limited downside and, you know, near infinite upside. So, you know, the chance of this not going up at all is very small. But if we're arguing about projects doing a 5x or versus 100x, I think we're at least arguing about being in the right place, because, you know, what are you going to do? Get 20% in the stock market? You know, crypto is the way out. It's inflating all your purchasing power. I say this all the time. You know, you can work your ass off at your job, get a 20-30% raise, and then all the prices of everything in the last 2 years doubled. So it's not enough.
Right.
You can buy assets, which assets like equities and stocks. Stonks are like the new savings account, right? It's yeah, they might go up 5-10% in a year. But how much was inflation really? They're going to tell you it's 2%, but in the categories that matter, housing, oil, food, probably a lot more in the categories that actually hit you. So we're really believers in this stuff. We don't look at it like one big casino. We look at it like the way out.
Absolutely. And that's something that I've been really preaching so I'm doing Uber driving right now, and it's been great. The number of conversations that I have on the daily about HEX, because people are interested, and it's been wild to see the transition from, instead of just mentioning crypto and them having no clue, the majority of people that I talk to now at least know Bitcoin, they know Ethereum, and the conversations I'm able to have transitioned from just, oh, like, do you know what Bitcoin is? No, let me tell you a little bit about crypto. Instead of it being that kind of conversation, it's more like, so you know what crypto is? Let me tell you what DeFi is. Let me tell you that your coins are not yours if you have a Coinbase account or a Robinhood account. Like, if you think that that's your money and you're able to do what you want with it, you're wrong. So, and people are, you know, I've had some great conversations where people are like open to that and understanding of that. So just in the last 2 to 3 years of my own experiences being out in the world, driving the Pulse Chain bus around, people stopping me, asking what this is about, right? It's definitely seems to me anyways that more people understand what crypto is and are hungry to learn more and want to know more about, okay, what do you mean I need my own wallet? What do you mean Coinbase owns my coins? So that's a huge reason why I stand so firmly behind the Pulse Chain Tour and what we've been doing for the last couple of years, because it's just those little ripples. It's like, you never know who you're going to touch or who you're going to affect or who's going to come and tell someone else that's going to tell someone else that happens to be a multimillionaire that's going to learn about this and buy into it. Because I've seen that happen. I've seen that effect go on out further, you know. It's exciting.
It seems so. It's really exciting. It seems like something that for people in the community, for people in the know, and a lot of people watching that are already familiar with DeFi, decentralized finance, they think this is obvious. But 99% of the world, you're right, more and more people have crypto. More and more people have, you know, they think they've got Bitcoin or Ethereum. It's a household name now. It's a brand name. I forgot what the stat was, like 400 million crypto users worldwide. Eventually, it's going to become like the internet, right? Everyone's going to have crypto on their smartphone. Everyone's going to have a wallet on their phone. And we're all going to be blockchain enabled. But, you know, the core of all this, which again sounds basic to people that know, but it's not basic to regular people. There's real crypto and fake crypto. There's real DeFi and fake DeFi. Holding your own private keys is something that this community, you know, basically we don't budge on that. You know, if something's got admin keys or if something's a centralized exchange, we warn people, hey, take your coins. You can use a centralized exchange as an on-ramp. You know, you have to. you've got to start off on Coinbase to, buy some Ethereum on Coinbase. Once you've got that Ethereum, get it off into your own personal wallet, because not only can you buy the stuff that's going to pump harder for, that financial freedom, but it's also going to give you that lifestyle freedom of being censorship resistant. So these things, they tend to go up in price. It's the highest appreciating asset class ever. That's great. Getting rich is awesome. That's part of it. But it's also about nobody being able to take away your money. And people don't realize that that's an issue yet in first world countries. But look at Canada. They shut off the truckers' bank accounts. They shut off people donating to peaceful protests in Canada, which is a first world country. I think somewhere in the Netherlands, they were shutting off bank accounts of certain farmers, I had heard, that were trying to protest having to kill all their cows. And this is only going to get more and more mainstream if we let it happen, because we're like frogs in boiling water. Third world countries, they know about this. They know about hyperinflation. Venezuela knows that, what a corrupt government can do to their money. So it's basically just all these countries are just doing varying degrees of suck. And the US dollar just sucks the least out of all the bad stuff. So being able to hold your money in your hand, it's digital money under the mattress. Censorship resistant means nobody can shut it off. Nobody can tell you how to spend your money or what you can spend it on, or if you want to buy a plane ticket or you want to pay for goods and services, and freedom of speech, freedom of movement. Money is freedom of speech. Yeah. But Coinbase, your 0.007 Bitcoin on Coinbase, that's just a little number in a database, and it's cool if that's all you want to do. But one day crypto is going to become the norm, right? People are going to respect the value of crypto. People are going to be getting paid in crypto. It might be 10 years off, but if you're early, you also get the financial reward for being early as well. Yep. So it's a win-win.
Yeah, both presidential campaigns are accepting crypto. People think there's no use case for it, and look at that. It'd be
stupid of them not to. Yeah. Look at how much was donated to Trump. It was multiple millions, and I guess Kamala's team got jealous, right? So you got to use the technology. It's you got to keep up, whether or not you don't like the fact that you don't have control over it. It's people are just going to move to other countries that are more crypto friendly. Exactly. Dubai and places like Singapore, they're already establishing themselves as the crypto innovation hubs. The USA is falling behind. So, fingers crossed we get some new people in office that actually make some solid regulations.
Yes.
And so we can continue to go ahead.
I was just going to say, that's a perfect kind of segue to talking about the New York hearing and the event. That is really, when I think about where we're at in terms of technology and knowledge and finance, we are the cutting edge. The Hexicans, the PulseX, our little tribe right here, we're the cream of the crop. The best minds, in my opinion, that I've seen in this space are all here. And we're all innovating, and we're doing things together that are steps ahead of anything that can be regulated. And I think that that's another thing that we forget, or we're so far into kind of this echo chamber that we don't realize in the outside. People have no idea what's going on with any of this, right? Even the whole thing with the SEC recently, and using, the wording that they used and how that can affect the case. It's really monumental. It's absolutely monumental. And I truly believe that this event and this hearing, this is going to be something that's, I think, at least in our history, it's going to go down in history in terms of just hey, I was there. I was at that hearing, and I got to witness history in the making. I really feel like this is something huge. And I'm really hopeful. If any of you out there have any kinds of connections, anyone in New York that does journalism that might be interested in covering this, I think that we should kind of maybe even get some kind of press release out there going, because how amazing is it? How often does a community, right, come behind their founder in such a way that they're all going to show, even though he's not going to be there. And I want to make sure everyone knows that clearly. Richard is not attending this hearing. We're showing up on his behalf, basically, and saying this matters to us. This is our freedom of speech, our freedom of movement. And we're here to listen to what's going on with this, because it means everything to some of it. It means a lot to us, right? So
Yeah.
I just want to encourage everyone to really seriously think about coming out to New York, whether or not you attend the seminar afterwards, whatever. Like, I'm not going to be perplexed either way, but come to the hearing Thursday, October 24th in New York. We're going to have, at the very least, there's going to be a room full of us sitting there in the hearing. And then from what I understand, and I can only say so much about this, but we've been in contact with Richard Hart's lawyers, like his team of lawyers. From what I understand, they will be able to prepare a secondary room if they see that the total amount of people that are actually going to show up is going to be more than however the court can hold. So that's one thing, is that they'll allow us to have a flow over room, and they'll set up a whole like camera and video feed so that anybody who shows up, hopefully anybody that shows up, would be able to either be actually in the court itself or in this overflow room with a recording of, with a video stream of what's happening live in that room. In addition to that, the next day, the seminar, they're open to the idea of either one or a couple of them speaking to the group of us and kind of from their point of view explaining and talking about what this case is and does and means and how it all works. So again, a big it's contingent on kind of the number of people that have signed up or are coming or are going to show up. So if you think you're coming, if you're buying that ticket, do so as soon as possible so that we can take these numbers to that team and say, hey, this is how many people are going to show up. Like, are you guys willing to come out and have this conversation with us and let us, give us a little bit of insight, right, into a lawyer's point of view on all of this. In addition to that, so that's.
Can I back up a little bit? Can I back us up a little bit? You can go to the Pulse Chain. No, sorry. You can go to pulsechaintour.com if you want more details about that event. We can bring that up. But just I want to talk about what we're even saying. People that are not in the community. People that are not in the community might not understand that there's a lot of lawsuits happening in crypto. The SEC is suing everybody. Hide your kids, hide your wife, and they're basically suing everybody that is doing something successful, making big waves. Like, they're suing all the largest exchanges, all the successful projects. Richard Hart versus the SEC is the big one that we all care about. And I think everybody in crypto should care about this because it's a defining moment for real DeFi and real progress. So, they're trying to sue pieces of decentralized software code that don't have an off switch that, even if Richard got hit by a bus, would continue to exist. So, it's clear in this particular case, most of the time, the SEC has been able to go after centralized companies. But in this case, they're actually just going after crypto itself. And crypto is just code on a blockchain, unstoppable code. So we need, we need people to realize that this is this could create good precedent going forward to make other builders, other people that want to build decentralized software, which is really just open source publishing software. They shouldn't be afraid to do it in the USA, but right now they are. And Richard doesn't even live in the USA, so that's a whole other legal issue. But like we said, Pulse Chain HEX community, they're ahead of the curve. We're very educated on this issue, very passionate about this issue. This whole community, for example, like they just know so much. When you look at people that are degenning on Solana, they don't know about like liquidity positions and all this different stuff, all the DeFi inner workings. That's where Pulse Chain's at. We're kind of at the frontier. But anybody that's in crypto or anybody that's just even tangentially related to this issue should want this to go forward in a positive way. They should want Richard to win because he's really done is made software here. And so what's happening is we're all getting together at the courthouse on October 24th. Again, go to pulsechaintour.com if you want details on where. And it's just to show up and represent the defendant, right? Because the SEC is doing nothing to protect investors. In fact, they've actively harmed investors. You can point to the chart and see where the SEC scared a lot of investors, which, by the way, they couldn't take down Pulse Chain even if they tried, right? Because it's by the nature of what it is. But they can give Richard a hard time, right? They can just make his life difficult, and but he's fighting back with some of the world's most epic lawyers, same people that represented Elon Musk, 50 Cent, all these famous people. It's Quinn Emanuel, voted the scariest law firm in the world, right? You don't really want to mess with these guys. So I think they've got a high probability of winning. But just to let everybody know, on the 24th, they're going to talk about a possible dismissal of the case, but that won't have a high probability of happening. I'd say maybe 1% to 10% chance of actually getting dismissed. Typically, cases don't get dismissed, but if it really is a bad enough allegation, if it is a bad enough job on the SEC's part, there is a probability that there might be very, very good news. So I'm sending out I'm sending that out into the world, but I don't want to expect it or jinx anything, right? And either way, the reason that you might be interested in coming to get more alpha, right, more insider info on the whole case here, which is going to affect the price, and that's going to affect you at the end of the day, is you're going to possibly get to hear from Richard's lawyers about their confidence and their strategy, and maybe what this case means and how they're going to go forward in winning, which might give you a little more confidence, which might give everybody, a little more bullish optimism. So sorry, that's what's happening here. That is what's happening. There is a lawsuit, one of many lawsuits,
yes,
that is going on for SEC sues Richard Hart and HEX, PulseChain, and PulseX.
Yeah, and we're not just showing up for no reason. There was another hearing, another small piece of this case happened in New York months back, and one of the community members attended it, went up and approached one of the lawyers, had a little bit of a conversation, and that lawyer specifically said it would look great, for this case if more people show up to these hearings. So this was the next one. And as far as I know, I think right now we have about 180 RSVPs for the hearing itself. And, whether or not all 180 of you are going to show up, I don't know, but I'm sure hopeful that at least half of that, would be really phenomenal. And that's why I was saying it'd be really great to get some press on it, because this is, I think, an unprecedented moment, something that's really going to affect the crypto space as we move forward and learn more about how the macro world is affecting, everything within our little ecosystem here. So
yeah, and these court cases, these courthouses are not used to having anybody show up at all.
Right.
Typically, it's just the lawyers and the defendants and the prosecutors, and nobody cares, right? But this is a perfect example of where the people can actually demonstrate their power in numbers, and it's a form of peaceful protest. Obviously, everyone's going to be well behaved, well dressed.
You want to?
Yeah, it does.
Snappily.
Yeah, you're going to a courthouse, so I'm not going to be wearing my red HEX t-shirt, but I'll probably have like a sport coat on. It does matter, right? Because if we look professional, we look like we're serious people, it's going to make an impact on the actual judge. And she'll, probably realize that you're affecting a lot of people negatively here on the SEC side. There's a lot of people's livelihoods. I mean, I basically bet my entire crypto bet is heavily weighted towards PulseChain working out. And I think this is the hill worth dying on. Yep. It's either it all goes to shit or it works out. Like I said, by nature of what it is, it can't be shut off. So I don't, there's almost zero probability of this going to zero. But I want it to be successful. I want it to make tons of people millionaires and financially free. Yeah. And also learning what real DeFi is along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. So I will just go over. Oh, would you be able to bring up the page?
Oh,
por favor.
Which page?
I sent it to you in Telegram.
1 minute.
Ding, 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 ding. So again, the hearing is happening on Thursday, October 24th. That's, totally free, open to the public. Let's fill that courtroom and then some. That's what I'm really hopeful is going to happen. And we thought, the PulseChain Tour team thought this would be a great opportunity to host, one of our last events, if not our last event for the year, and bring people together. We saw people who were going to be coming from all over the world. And quick side note, if you are going to this hearing and you are coming from somewhere outside of the US, please either send myself or Nuclear Herbs a DM letting us know which country you're coming from, because that is also a factor. That's also just one other thing we can present to this team of lawyers and say, hey, I believe as of right now, we know of people coming to the hearing from 6 different countries. So if you're coming from out of state, just let one of us know, myself, Nuclear Herbs, KC, or RG3. Like we're all kind of interested in knowing where you're coming from, to just give more excitement to this team about, hey, this is huge for us, right? So like I was saying, we thought it would be great to just have a bunch of people who are knowledgeable about the space and this case and have good things to say and good ways of explaining what's happening. So we asked several of our community members, as well as, like I mentioned, the team of lawyers, to come out and speak the next day after the hearing. So that's going to be Friday, October 25th. And it is a pretty much a full day seminar. We're going to start at 9:30 in the morning. And that's just registration. Come on in, say hello. We have VIP swag bags and things like that, hats, and a lot of really cool merch that comes along with that. So the first session is going to be RG3. Is going to have a little 30-minute segment, probably pretty similar. If you watch his show, I would say it'll be some kind of rant, very similar to what he does every Friday during F and Hangout. And then we'll have, see these things listed, and I'm not sure who's doing what, but give me one second here. So it's not listed on there yet in terms of all of the speakers. At least I don't see that at a first glance, but the people who are speaking, let's see, this guy right here, he's gonna have a little something to say about all of this. And thank you so much, Matt, for just everything that you've done for this community for so long, for being a consistent voice of reason, a consistent voice crying out in the wilderness, letting people know, hey, this is it, right? Like, in terms of, you've been in crypto much longer than I have, right? This is my first cycle. This is your third?
Third. I mean, 2015, yeah.
All right. So yeah. So, seeing those patterns and see, it's like you've probably seen now all the things there are to see, right? There's, like RG3 says, there's nothing new under the sun in terms of financial instruments. A lot of what crypto is taking a financial instrument that already exists and kind of putting a new cover on it. For a perfect example is HEX, right? First certificate of deposit on the blockchain, right? So for you to have just so constantly and consistently brought about that same message and not ever wavered, I believe that that's a big reason why we're all going to succeed, because there's so many of us that it's not just about the money. Like you said earlier, yeah, we all want to get rich, like that's great, but what about our freedoms, and what about what this means for people who, like Abit, right? And I can't think of his name right now, but there was someone else that was in a similar situation, basically went from being absolutely broke and nearly homeless to having financial freedom thanks to HEX and what it's done for them.
Oh, lots of people, hundreds of people.
Yeah. It's so important, right? And it's so amazing to know that anyone can do this, right? Like, if you've got and we tell you not to do crypto on your phone, but if you have a cell phone and like a few bucks to throw at this thing, it's worth your time and energy learning how to do it so that you can become financially free. And to be able to speak on this and explain to more people how, although it's a bet, right? Again, we all know we're taking a risk and we're taking a gamble. This is, to me, again, and I'm sure to you as well, it's the surest bet that we can make with this space. So just to go over it real quick. So RG3 will be speaking, Crypto Coffee will be speaking, Lindsay the Hexagon, who when I think of in our community, people who stand for freedom and our rights and things like that, Lindsay's definitely one of those voices out there constantly talking about that kind of stuff. I love watching her content, and she's growing food and things like that, which is super near and dear to my heart. So excited that Lindsay's going to be there speaking. Access Alive also will be there giving us a little bit of information, and also super excited about this. Randy Hilarski is going to be speaking as well, and I think that is a fire group of people right there, and probably some of the most positive and brilliant minds in terms of like the grand scheme of things, right? Like seeing, especially Randy, like just his point of view, the knowledge that he has from living in different places and doing different things and working his way through the world. I think this is all going to be such invaluable information. And then lastly but not least, we also are going to have a panel, and that is going to include, at this point, there's one more person that we're kind of on. We don't have 100% confirmation yet, but the two that we are 100% confirmed is Zenith from the Degen Roundtable. Love that dude. Again, just when it comes to talking about freedoms and our rights and how it is we can move more freely through this world. He's one of those voices out there crying about it, and then crying in a good way about it. And our beloved Nuclear Herbs, ladies and gentlemen, has agreed to speak on our panel. For those of you that don't know, Nuclear Herbs kind of came out of the woodwork not too long ago. I mean, maybe it's been a little over a year or so now, but he just really started to bring his knowledge, having worked in the legal world for so long. He was like, what if I try to explain this in layman's terms to our group? And everyone just started to eat that content up. I mean, he is one of the best. I think he is one of the greatest assets to come into our community within the last year or two, because it's been really great. You can see all these legal documents, and it's all this kind of like mumbo jumbo words you don't completely understand. And he's so wonderful at breaking that down and helping us understand, okay, this is what this step means. This is the next thing that can or may not happen. This is the chances of this thing happen, because he's seen it all, right? He's been there and done that in terms of the legal world. So this is just, I think this event is for us to kind of end the tour with this is like the icing on the cake. I'm super excited about all of these people, everything that they're going to bring to this seminar and talk about. And then it's New York, y'all. We're going to party. Like, that's going to happen. So be sure to get your tickets as soon as you can. It's going to be a really awesome event, and I have a feeling, it'll probably sell out considering how many people are coming to the hearing. So if you are staying the weekend, you're going to hang out, might as well just come hang out with us and get some real awesome, super in-depth insight into this case and its ramifications, implications.
Yeah. This one's meaningful, right? Like, we do a lot of they're all meaningful. A lot of these meetups, it's good to get together and network, and that's where relationships are built and synergies happen. But this one is, like SJ was saying, making history. So yeah, I guess we've got this schedule. It's the first time I'm reading it, so good to know that I'm talking on some panels. I'm sure it'll be easy with people like Zenith and Nuclear Herbs. This guy's an actual lawyer, right? Decades of being a lawyer, and he's breaking down a lot of the important points, a lot of the important progress that's being made. For example, did you know that in the Coinbase case with crypto, SEC versus Coinbase, the SEC actually had to apologize for use of the word crypto asset security, which they essentially admitted that they regretted using it because it's a totally arbitrary word that they just made up. They've been accusing everyone of being a crypto asset security. But they can't even really define what that is because there's no legal definition of that. It's up until this point in time, it's just been whatever the SEC decides to go after. It's kind of like the imaginary boogeyman that they made up. If you're a crypto asset security, we don't like you. You're listing so many crypto asset securities, but what does that mean? We're not going to tell you. And they got called out for it in the Coinbase case. And I believe that Richard's lawyers are probably watching all this stuff unfold, just adding that to more ammunition for the Pulse Chain case, because they use the word crypto asset securities like 5 times on the first page of the case. So there's all kinds of new case, new stuff is unfolding every day that can be used as ammo against the corrupt and incompetent SEC.
Yeah. Yes, indeed.
So yeah, come guys. I mean, don't be afraid to, and if you don't want to, that's fine. You don't have to. But if you want to feel like you're part of history, it could be a fun thing, drama free, just something fun to get together. And again, I think this is the biggest innovation since the internet. Right? AI is going to be huge as well.
Yes.
But AI is going to have its own regulatory hurdles to overcome. But when we're talking about decentralized crypto, HEX, PulseChain, PulseX, they're as core to what crypto is supposed to be as you can get. And so that's why this case is so important, because a lot of this crypto out there, it has admin keys. It is centralized. There is somebody that can shut it off. This is like the first time the SEC is actually suing real crypto, not a company. They're suing a piece of code. It doesn't make any sense at all.
No.
So, it's kind of a clear declaration of their lack of understanding. The fact that they even tried, like, what's the code going to do? Grow little legs and walk into the courthouse? Like, I don't think that's possible. Unless things get really weird. I don't see that happening. So, yeah, but they also don't realize that they picked a really rich multimillionaire, rumored to be a billionaire, with nothing but drive and determination to fight back.
Yeah.
So they kind of barked up the wrong tree. Sorry?
I just said he also has that thirst for glory.
Yeah. This guy doesn't need any more money, right? He's just doing it to be the best. Doing it for the sake of winning, right? It's just like the masculine urge to win and be good at stuff. Some people might not understand. Some of the soy boys out there, they might not get it. But it's going to be glorious, guys, and it's going to actually offer people better crypto. It's just Ethereum, but better. HEX is just Bitcoin, but better. And fingers crossed that shows up on the price chart one day. I could see it happening. It's just a matter of spreading the message.
Yeah. Getting a tiny little taste of that right now. Yum yum.
Tiny little taste. Yeah. let's check on the prices today, huh? That's all anyone cares about. Let's go to gopulse.com. We've got.
Can you check the question I sent?
Sure. Yeah, in the past week, PulseChain is up 20%, PulseX is up 25%, INC token is up 30%, HEX is up 60% because it also dipped the hardest, so not surprised. And then EHEX, the one that everybody wrote off, the one that everybody was arguing about, EHEX parity, oh my God, that's back up to a 1-to-3 ratio. It went from a 1-to-10 ratio earlier to now 3 EHEX equals 1 HEX on PulseChain. And that EHEX just did a 100% increase in the last 2 days. So it doubled. So congrats to anybody that was buying down there. Clearly, very few people were buying or selling because that was, that was kind of bottoming out. What question are you asking? Where are you asking?
In Telegram.
Oh, yes.
Yay! Well then.
Yeah.
I have one more thing to add, if that's the case.
Sure, go ahead.
So, like I said, this New York event is going to be the last event for the PulseChain Tour in terms of this year, and also in terms of little events. We had a really great run these last couple years in terms of traveling all over, teaching people about DeFi, learning a lot about working as a team and what works and what doesn't in terms of bringing people to these events. And in terms of like our time and energy and resources and where they're going, it makes more sense for us to go ahead and do fewer events, but make them larger and bring more people. And like RG wants, and I'm sure all of us do, if you really think about it, to fill stadiums, to have just masses of people coming to learn about what true DeFi is, how it works, how it can save you from the rat race, how it can be your new 401k, right? And perpetuate this abundance out into the world. Because that's truly at the end of the day, what I believe is the core of our community is abundance for everyone. Like that quote from Richard where he says that his cup is full and he wants to see other people's cups overflow. That to me, again, guys, that's why I call myself the positivity princess. That's why I've not once complained about my investment that was at the top or near the top going down 99%. I always knew it was a risk. I always knew that it could all go to zero. And very shortly after getting involved, I knew without a shadow of a doubt that this is something that I wanted to stand behind and be a part of and see come to fruition. So the heart of our journey really comes down to perpetuating abundance and seeing that happen for our family members and our friends, right? The people that have listened to us and won't listen to us. We still want to see all of these people have the opportunity to create the lives that they want, to be able to do things that they want to do versus working away 8 hours, 9, 10, 12 hours a day for somebody else to line someone else's pockets and make them rich. So all that to say that perpetuating that message to the masses is absolutely the way that we're going to go in the future. And all that being said, the event that we're going to do is we've decided to call it the 369 Pulse Chain Tour, Pulse Chain Conference, the 369 conference. And that's usually our code, our chain ID is 369. And then March 6th through the 9th happens to be a weekend this coming 2025, and it works out perfectly. So we're hosting this event in Vegas. It won't always be in Vegas. It'll probably always be around that time, March 6th through the 9th. That's what we kind of want to do. And that allows us to, instead of like ETH Denver or, something like that, where you're restricted to a certain location, we just wanted to make it, hey, like we're going to do it around this date and we're going to go, wherever it makes sense to. So Vegas is the first place. And it's going to be just, I think, like a culmination of all of the different things that you've loved about any event that you've attended is going to be there. I mean, the way that Kaylin, Casey, she's just amassed this wealth of knowledge from doing all these events and knowing what works and what doesn't. And the way that we're setting this up, the way that it's going to work out, the events that we're planning, the speakers that we're going to have, the sponsorship like packages and deals for people that want to get their products and their names out there. It's just, I'm really excited to see that the way that this kind of like comes to fruition in terms of us being way more professional, having, eyes on this event from outside of our community, because that's huge, right? Drawing people from Solana, from Polygon, like we really want to bring communities that are outside of our own into this fold and be like, hey, like this is where real DeFi is happening and you're late to the party. So come on out. And this is the last weekend to get 36.9% off the price of admission. So 36.9% off. You can use the code RG3, simple, easy, RG3. Just pop that in your little thing and you'll get 36.9% off. That code will work for some percentage of a discount after this weekend. I think it might go down to 15% though. So you're getting the best, biggest deal by doing this early bird special, putting that code in and, moving forward. And I just like the one thing I really want to put out there is we've done these events in the past and done them successfully, and it's all been awesome. So I just wanted to throw that out there. the fact that like we've run this tour for the last 2 years and have had, success at every single event, have had people attend, have had connections made and groups form and projects start because of all of these, little events. It's really been awesome to see the community grow because of that. And I am ecstatic to think that this is going to be something bigger than that and bring a lot more minds and a lot more attention to our space. So that's also on same website, pulsechaintour.com. And I think you can go to pulsechaintour.com /conference. And that'll show you all of the information for Las Vegas. I'm trying to think if I can tell you about any of our confirmed speakers. I know B Roots is going to be there. I think he's mentioned that it's going to be one of his last in-person events or speaking engagements. So that's going to be really neat. Let me think. But we're going to do, if you were around the community a couple years ago, maybe like 2 years ago, there was an event that was not as successful in Las Vegas, but one of the successful parts of that was there was a Pulse Masters golf tournament, and that was a completely separate event thrown by Kaylin. Like, she put all that together. That was all of her thing. And that actually, ladies and gentlemen, that is where the magic of Kaylin and SJ began. I went out to that event and I offered to volunteer and help her set things up and run. I think I helped her run the check-in. And that's when we realized that we really make a great team and we work very well together. So that's kind of where some of the magic started. And it's really just a beautiful thing for me to see us now 2 years later working together as a team and getting to put this event on and making it even greater than that was. And the weather's going to be so much better. I think it was that event was in September and it was just it was like over 100 degrees and I couldn't even go outside. So this is going to be beautiful, wonderful golf tournament, seminar, conference. There's going to be a whole VIP lounge room. She knows how to throw a party and throw a conference. So this is going to be a little bit of both. And I'm really proud to be a part of it.
Cool. Go to pulsechaintour.com if that sounds interesting to you. Got 1 day left for the 36% off coupon. What's the coupon code?
RG3.
RG3 at pulsechaintour.com. Well, call to action for you guys. It is fun, right? These things do matter. Think about it in the early Bitcoin days. It was just Bitcoiners meeting up at people's houses. It was a bunch of nerdy tech guys in their basements, and they would go to their local bar, and there'd be little Bitcoin meetups, and then organically things grew and grew. Same thing when Ethereum started, right? Now you've got ETH Denver and like Token 2049 and all these crazy conferences that were born out of, at one point, such a not as big community. And PulseChain and HEX, the community here is already ahead in terms of, people and attention, ahead compared to where Bitcoin was in the early days.
Yep.
Obviously, crypto is more mature now, but yeah, this is just it's a cool thing to be a part of.
Yeah, I just want to add one more thing to that is near and dear to my heart, and kind of on the same topic of us doing fewer events as our team, right? I want to encourage you to create an event in your own town. Us going out there and doing that really got the attention of people to understand that there's more than just you in your city, right? Like, there's some places that we went where people sat down and met and found out they lived down the street from each other, or had gone to the same high school years apart, or things like that. And
crazy. You never know who's a Hexican, right? Like, I was charging my car the other day and I saw this guy pull up right next to me, started charging his car with a little pulse chain necklace on. And he recognized me. And I'm just like, oh, small world. These little connections, they are meaningful if you choose to do that. You could always just stay home and stay in your bubble. But I think a lot of people out there are looking for a connection and looking for meaning. And this is something you can do that will actually help make the world a better place when the price is 100x higher. But let's it's round two, right? Hex already did a 10,000x. We know what it's capable of, and the rest of this ecosystem, not to mention only the core coins, but everybody building on it as well. Some people are taking their future into their own hands and building something of value and getting to success that way. So much opportunity. PulseChain is just an open playground. It's brand new. It's just over 1 year old. It's like, a year and a half old. And the sky is the limit. So you're in at the ground floor. This is going to be like one of the first PulseChain tours. And who knows what they'll look like 10 years from now. Like you said, we could be filling stadiums. It's fun. It's fun to dream about how high we could go.
Whee.
We're at about an hour. We're at exactly 1 hour. Any final words? You want to tell people anything else?
Just that we're all in this together and we need you. Everyone has their own talent, their own way of doing things. or their own kind of niche in the world. And if you can do what you want to do and at the same time promote, what it is that you love or you're interested in, then do that. I
want to give you a few examples of that, like hexoticrentals.com. These guys just they have a supercar rental company, and they just incorporated the Hex branding in there, and now it's Hexotic Rentals, and they're showing Hex along with what they were already doing. There's a guy on YouTube who just passed 16,000 subscribers that literally does like Pokemon. He has a Pokemon channel, unboxing and cards, collectibles, but he rebranded it to PokeHex, right? And so now in the corner, he talks about Hex every now and then. You don't have to do anything at all, right? What?
Do you know what that channel is?
PokeHex.
Oh, it's called PokeHex. Okay, cool. Nice.
Yeah. You don't have to do anything, right? Some people just want to, do what they've always done, work their 9 to 5, have a simple life.
Be a cheerleader.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's a call to action for anybody that wants to take that leap or wants their life to be a little more interesting, meaningful. And maybe you're totally good in that department. Maybe none of this matters, but to you. But I think really crypto is the place to be. It's what's happening, and it has the power to make people rich and free. And what better place to do it than this brand new ecosystem?
Yes.
All right, let's wrap it up, huh? Yeah, guys, if you are brand new to crypto, if none of this made any sense, hexpassiveincome.com teaches you everything you need to know. It's a course I made from zero to hero for the absolute beginner. Otherwise, just check out all the links in the description below. If you want to get started on Pulse Chain, all the links in the description. They've got all the apps, all the websites you got to go to. Everything you need to bookmark is right there. Or, like and subscribe to my channel. Watch all my free content if you want to figure it out that way. I think this is the opportunity of a lifetime. You basically have to make that choice yourself. Do you agree? Do you not? It's totally up to you, and time will tell who's right. See you guys on the next one.
Thank you.